Welcome, friends, to another draft. Today we're doing Foundations, and we're just gonna see what happens. I've been having some struggles with like winning a lot, and I'm still getting used to the new set. So, if we get wins over 50%, this draft will be a keeper, and by keeper I mean we'll actually put it up on the channel because it's not very very entertaining content if you only get to see like, 3 or 4 games played. I like it better when you guys have more stuff to watch. So let's see if we can get some longer form content going. I decided to pick Garuk's Upkeep as my first pick because they're just like weren't any rares that I feel like do a good job in the draft format. Like there's a lot of rares here that do better in formats that allow you to either like build up to it more efficiently or just take longer like commander or some other things. So we didn't pick any rares in our first 2 packs. That being said, though, Garuk's Uprising and a little Green Hydra isn't a bad start. So we got some card draw, we got something that cares about counters, and if we draw it later in the game or play it later in the game, it can actually trigger the Uprising to get us to draw the cards. So here I'm keeping my options open, and I'm just selecting other cards that I think are good. I do like the idea of getting rewarded for drawing cards, in this case by making little 1/1 flyers. Uh, Midnight Snack is just becoming very quickly like a little pet card to me in this set. I think it's always really fun to play. It's helped me win a couple games where I thought I wouldn't otherwise. But I went with the Empyrean Eagle because we already have another flyer, and Empyrean Eagle is like one of the good flyers. So we'll see what else we get. There's another blue uncommon here. Self-reflection seems like it would be good, but for some reason, I'm picking it here, but for some reason, I haven't ever played it in a draft yet at the time of recording where I was happy that I had it and I copied something like really substantial that helped me like win the game or caused a turning point or like to come back in a big way. And if you're playing something for 6 mana, you kind of hope that would be what happens. So I don't know. I'm not sure it's like the best card for draft format either, but live and learn, and doing the drafts and trying out the new cards is how we figure out what works and what doesn't. So with that said, I hope y'all are having an absolutely wonderful day, and I'm so happy you're here spending time with little old me. So here I'm looking at more blue cards because I don't have anything red yet. I'm already kind of wobbling between 3 colors. So that red rare I'm not necessarily interested in. We did get a blue rare. It's expensive, but stopping someone's turn can be pretty useful because the idea is you can do this on like your opponent's upkeep or something and just shut them down. Like just have them skip a whole turn, which is wild. So here I'm thinking about what's going on. I only have 2 green cards, so I put them to the side just to see how everything else is panning out. Conveniently enough, the 3 creatures that I happen to have that I moused over there, they're all flying, which makes the Imperium Eagle look really good. The Rune Sealed Wall just always seems to do an okay amount of work, whether it be soaking up damage or helping you get some card selection by surveilling every turn. So that was a nice pickup if we do go the blue route, which it looks like we're going to. And we'll take the green-blue land. Maybe we'll do a little Bant deck. uh, maybe. We'll see. I'm also not super upset about having the Armasaur guide that I picked up. A little vigilant 4/4 gets a +1/+1 counter on somebody. If you attack with 3 or more creatures with flyers and a wide board, it might be easy to do that. So we're thinking about things. I put the Hydra away. Hi, Krinko. I put the Hydra away just because I'm not entirely convinced that we're going to be putting a lot of counters on a lot of stuff. We have a second copy of the fairy who makes more fairies, so we just have more flyers. I did pass up a green-white land, I saw it, but having the Sky Mage is like a pretty important piece. And now we're just grabbing some more uncommon flyers. So we got the Buccaneer. He can help us draw a card. And at this point, I'm thinking, why complicate things with 3 colors? I don't have a lot of stuff that's going to be power 4 when it enters, so Garruk's Uprising might not help as much as we would hope it would. So maybe we'll just simplify stuff and do a little 2-colored deck. At this point, I'm probably sweating a little because we're a couple picks into pack 2 and I have absolutely 0 interaction. Like, I don't have anything to remove my opponent's stuff. And that could be a good way to lose a game when they just have a really good card you can't answer. So we'll see what happens. But for now, just having a lot of flyers with a little bit of synergy with the Imperium Eagle, like, it feels okay. Here I went with the tree stop snare spinner, or the tree top snare spinner, just because he happens to be like a solid card that can help you a lot if like you and your opponent are both kind of on somewhat even footing, but you're out of cards. So I'm thinking like maybe he's worth splashing green for, because I didn't see anything else in that last pack where I thought like, yeah, this would be like a really solid, good like blue or white card to play. So Lathrill's black-green, and I'm looking at her kind of wishing that like I got her earlier. I don't know. There's something about elves in this set where it's like when you see Lathril and stuff, um, or Dwynen, you're like, oh, that'd be so cool if I could get like a whole bunch of elves on the table, and then it's kind of easier said than done in draft. And maybe that's just because like I haven't been able to grab them like the first pick of pack 1 yet to really solidify that shot, but I haven't been able to make like a very impressive deck like featuring an elf ball in draft at least. So here we're picking up another blue creature, just a solid 3-drop. And we finally found a blue rare. It cares about when you draw cards, which is kind of the theme for blue in this set, for those of you who maybe haven't played it a lot or seen it a lot. But I'm sure you have at this point. But the reason I didn't take the rare is simply because I'm trying to lean into the flyer theme. And at this point, I don't have a lot of ways to actually draw extra cards, which means like I should worry about finding ways to draw cards or just have a lot of flyers for the Imperium Eagle, because the mischievous mystic that we have 2 of that makes more fairies, like they only make more fairies if you draw if you draw extra cards. So at this point, I'm like, I don't have card draw and I'm having trouble finding removal, which could mean that either these packs were just interesting or these colors are actually like being picked up by other players at the table, and removal or like key common cards are just getting picked up really quickly. So we're just going through some of the stuff at the end of the packs here, putting them aside, and we see what we get. So we got another spider, and I'm thinking like we're already splashing for green. We already have one spider, like maybe we'll just grab another one. So I'm not interested in the red cards. And I'm kind of thinking here, like, how heavy do I want to lean into green? And I grabbed the bushwhack instead of the other fight spell, just because bushwhack is a little bit cheaper. And I think my 3 slot might be starting to fill up a little bit. Also, bushwhack can help us get a land, and in 3-colored decks, having the flexibility to grab a land can be really important. So even though I'm hurting for removal, I said I'd rather have a second healer's hawk. Just grabbed another flyer. So I guess the hope is that I'm gonna attack my opponents so relentlessly that I will be the problem, and any problem they deploy won't feel like as big of an issue because they'll be on the back foot, which is always a risky thing to do. And even if you have that strategy, having things to like remove your opponent's pieces or interact with their board in some way can still be helpful, because getting rid of the things they could use like to block or slow you down is a really good way to stay um ahead and keeping them like on the back foot. So this deck, like, it doesn't feel like the greatest. And maybe there were some other cards you're saying, Amy, you should have picked that instead. But like past me can't hear either of us, so it's okay. And at this point, I'm not sure how much we're gonna lean into keeping the green creatures we have. We'll see. So we did find a bounce spell. And the biggest way we have to like draw cards to get our fairy tokens generating is with the Strix Lookout, the little bird where you can tap 2 and then draw a card, discard a card. Or the Skyship Buccaneer that says if you attacked, draw a card when it enters. Aetherize is a really excellent spell. That's a good one to pick up. So that feels a little better. Another gold vein pick. I might actually keep it just because if my creatures can stay a little bit bigger than everybody else's, it'll help me punch through in the air, which is already more difficult to block anyway. So we'll see what happens with that. Getting some odds and ends. So what I'm gonna do now is decide which cards to keep, which cards not to keep, and I will get back to you when I've made my choices. Ooh. Okay, we're back. Here's what I decided on. So I have basically all the flyers I picked up in the draft to help out with the plan of just relentlessly slap people in the air with flyers and hope that that could take us home. One thing you'll notice is that I really don't have like a lot of like card draw, a lot of fight spells or removal. So for those, we're really just hoping that like relentlessly attacking will get us there. We do have Aetherize. We have 1 witness protection, so we'll just have to be careful with like when we use those things if we do. And we'll see if the deck needs tweaks later. I have 1 forest along with the Thornwood Falls because I'm figuring I have 2 green cards. If I never draw like a forest or use the Evolving Wilds to help get it, um, then like it's not the end of the world if like two cards in my whole deck feel dead, as long as they're both not in my hand at the same time. But I also have two Gold Vein picks, so the chances that I'll be able to make some treasures to help with this are probably high. So without further ado, let's get into our first match. Here we are. This hand is like pretty keepable, pretty okay. We got a fast creature, we have a creature to play later, and we have some amount of interaction. I forgot to mention that we do have that essence scatter as like a form of interaction to throw our opponents off. And we just got a forest, so we have all three of our colors. I guess that's nice. I'm thinking, like, do I want to get the Evolving Wilds, the slow land, out of the way? Or do I want to hold up a counterspell? And we decide to be able to hold up said counterspell. I think the reason we're doing that is because they're playing blue. So the chances of them playing like a flyer that could get in the way of our hawk is a little bit higher. And I don't counter this creature that they played because my healer's hawk gains me life, and I'm okay with getting some extra cards since I can like off balance whatever they're doing. And we're still holding up the Essence Scatter. We got a Mischievous Mystic, which is pretty cool. Got another little creature. Okay, they played some life gain. I'd be surprised if they don't attack. Okay, they don't want to. I wonder if they were worried that I would have like the little blue flash creature, the 2/1. Because we would definitely be able to trade, and that would feel kind of rough for them, I'm sure. Alright, let's see what they have. Yikes. Okay. Let's see if our next creature enters the board. It made it. It wasn't countered. They were thinking for a minute, though. I don't know if they're on full control or if they actually, like, have an instant at this point. Alright. The nice thing about their little creature over there getting us to draw an extra card is, like, it does help our flyer get bigger. But now we're gonna start feeling the pain, because that thing is a 3/2. Okay. Thoughts, feelings, emotions. We could play Witness Protection and get their thing out of the air. Possible. Okay, we decide to do that, sure. And then we can play the pick. We can equip the pick. Are we still gonna hit them? It looks like we're still gonna hit them. Yep. So currently, if I'm thinking about racing, they're still doing more damage to me than I'm doing to them. And this is where, like, not answering their creature is starting to... We're starting to feel it. Which is just a lesson in when your opponent says, hey, I want to draw extra cards, and you can counter their spell, you just tell them no. Because we could have, like, Essence scattered them a while ago, we just didn't. That's okay, you know? We're greedy, and we're working on it. And this is just one of those lessons to work on it. Alright. So we're trying to refill up our board here. Excellent. Take a damage. We're gonna blow up the little pick. Probably not at this point. We are drawing lots of lands. We got no problem with lands. So at this point, it's likely that if their creatures get through, we won't have like enough life to actually get us through the rest of this game here. And they got their big flyer back. Okay. And we feel pressured to block. At least they traded. We didn't jump block. They're gonna draw more cards. Seems like the thing they want to do these days. We'll take a damage, unfortunately. That's what we get for being greedy. It is what it is. At least a 4/4 is big enough to threaten their creatures. We are on a clock, so the best thing we can do is try to do something to pressure them. I think it would be nice if our board stays intact the way it is. Next turn we could just hold up time stop, and we could stop their turn before they force us to draw another card. And that saves us like an extra damage. But the reason that we should have countered that spell instead of being greedy is because with their hand being so full, like they always just have more stuff to challenge us with. So, you know, they kind of got away from us with this game, but that's okay. All right. Play yet another land, perhaps? Yep, okay, that's out of the way. Weighing my options, I decide there's no way out. So if we wanted to, we could have like played the fairy and held up the time stop for a mana discount, cut out their turn, looked at one more. But they just kept putting out like so many flying blockers that I'm not really sure we had like a good chance here. So we'll move on to the next game. Does this hand look good? No. This hand looks way better. We'll just get rid of our expensive card and call it a life. Alright, let's see what we can do. I say play a plains first. So we got our enchantment. I haven't played with the Twin Blade Blessing before. I heard from someone else like it's pretty underwhelming and not that good, but like I haven't tried it yet, so I kind of want to give it a go. And we're playing someone else who happens to have flyers that have better stats than mine straight off the bat. So that's exciting. Ooh, a gold bag pick is kind of nice, actually. Alright. So if I put it on the hawk, we could start swinging just to like gain life every turn. But putting it on the Mischievous Mystic actually gives us a chance to like force something out of their hand or threaten to trade. Unfortunate. And they still want to block. Okay. So we'll get this creature out here as early as possible so that it has the potential to see more card draws. And I could have put this on the bottom of my library, but at this point, like, there aren't too many other cards I can think of in this situation with the lands that I have. that would be better than what I have. The unfortunate part is that, like, my board just isn't impressive. So we're gonna take a little bit of damage, we're gonna get beat around, and it seems like they were doing what we were doing, they just happened to do it better. And that's a little rough, but it is what it is. And this is where, like, not having a lot of interaction really showing its colors here. So I'm thinking we'll get more power and toughness on the hawk so that we can gain a little bit of life. And in retrospect, it would actually be nice if, like, I kept that back. And then when they attack, we could block with the hawk and put the double strike on it then. And perhaps block, like, the eagle. But it is what it is. So here I'm taking out the Twin Blade Blessing. And I don't think it's like a terrible card. But it's just, it's not lining up well with the way that my deck seems to be trying to run. So we're gonna try putting in some different stuff instead. Like a Juggernaut. Alright, and then I took out Time Stop and put in Garruk's Uprising. I am fully aware that I do not have a lot of creatures that will ever trigger that card. But I decide that it will be worth it for, like, maybe like the 1 or 2 cards we do get to draw in a game. And, like, Trample's never a bad thing either. Because at this point, like, my deck really doesn't have any reliable card draw. So having something that gives us a better chance to, like, trigger our creatures that care about card draw is kind of nice. Now, I would like this hand if we had, like, 1 more land in it. It's slow, but it would be really nice if, like, one of those Mocking Sprites or the Juggernaut or something was just, like, a land. And our opponent is taking their time. I wonder if they also have a perplexing hand. So I decide to risk it. And we'll just see if we can draw into a land, since we're on the draw and we're seeing an extra card anyway. And us being irresponsible was rewarded. Look at that. So it's not that bad. They thought really hard about attacking me. Alright. My little mouse was having a freak out there for a minute. I'm over here like, what are you thinking so hard about? There are no 1-cost flash green creatures, and you want your creature to die to make a 1/1 flyer anyway. Like, what are you doing? Alright, so they're playing the black-white Weenie Hut Jr. Go Wide board. It's not a bad strategy. I've seen it around quite a bit. I think they're missing like a couple key pieces they probably have to have it take off, like stuff that sacrifices stuff or a Rabo that buffs all their cats. We'll see what they do, see what they play and what they draw. And they're going for it, which makes me think they have something. Okay, they don't have anything. I thought they were gonna have like a combat trick or something, and instead they're just trying to continually hit around me. Go spiders. I think a 4/3 with reach for only 3 mana is so good though. It's wild. Alright. They're both problems. There's no way around that. Alright, I got rid of one of them. If they full swing, I will block again. Get another 2 power off the board, might as well. Because the worry here is, like, if they ever do have a combat trick, like, it's gonna make stuff hit so much harder. It's better to, like, force their hand. And since we already sized up our opponent as being willy-nilly and trading creatures, like, it's okay. We'll get the slow land out of the way. It helps us draw a card, and then next turn, if we play the plains and have 6 mana, we can either drop both Mocking Sprites and fill out our board, or we could even put like 2 counters on some of our creatures. And the Juggernaut's big, but like he only gets to actually block this turn, and the Mocking Sprites don't make the best blockers with 1 toughness. But this eagle we just drew solves a lot of that problem. So that's a pretty lucky draw. That's 2 lucky draws this game. We got our lands on time and we got a good blocker. We'll see what they do now. They want to trade. That's probably smart. Alright. Another Banishing Light. There's 2 of the greatest cards in my deck answered. Oh, now they decide not to attack? Perhaps we are stabilized. So we'll choose to continue filling out our board. If their deck is set up to make a wide board, then like the wider we can get ours, the better we'll be able to stabilize and keep up with them. They found a second black source. So if the card in their hand was like bacon to a pie, and that's what they haven't been playing this whole time, that might be a little rough for us. But we'll get through it. Okay. Decide to put counters on things. Alright. We're going in. And I think the reason I'm okay with going in here, even though I'm at 9 life and now they have lots of attackers, is because if they want to trade, they have to get rid of a lot of their board. But now they're going to be thinking about blocking probably. And we can still threaten to block multiples of their creatures. Yeah, they're holding off again. Interesting. Yeah, they were aggressive in the beginning, but I think that that kind of did them in, now that they're being a little, like, shy about it. I think it was like they felt okay trading creatures because they had more creatures in their hand, but then they ran out. Because we weren't actually trading, I was just eating their creatures with my bigger ones. And I think the lifelink hawk here is really good, especially with the treetop snare spinner to put counters on it. Because not only are we going to gain life, but we're going to gain way more life than that hawk originally intended. And I think this vampire gourmand was part of what they were looking for that they wish they had earlier. Here we go. It looks like we're playing a Simic deck. So I kept this hand because we got our 3 lands. And we got the colors of the cards in our hand. I think it's a little risky not keeping any planes because so much of our deck does ask for like white and its casting cost, but it is what it is. You do what you can. The thing about Wary Thespian is like there's something about it when an opponent plays it where it just always feels like it has so much power. It's like, great, now I have to use a card from my hand or like actually give up one of my creatures just to get rid of this thing. But when you don't get rid of it, it hits so hard. I think I did that in a previous draft where it's like my Thespian just kept getting in because it feels so bad to like trade one of your creatures with it. But with the Mischievous Mystic and the Strix Lookout, like the engine of I can start making little 1/1s could be really good to block with it rather than trading one of these creatures. I think I'm just thinking about like if I want to try to force them to use some spell out of their hands. And I think we actually are playing a Simic deck. They don't know that we're not, but I think they are. Here we go. Making 1/1s. Getting rid of the card that does nothing for us at the moment. And we got a plains. So we're set next turn to either draw another card and discard with the Strix Lookout and play a Mocking Sprite, or play our large flyer. And I think either one of those options would be good. It just depends on what I think would be better. And I think because the elemental, when it enters, we do the same thing as the Strix Lookout does. That was actually like a pretty good play to make. Alright. We have a board. We're gonna start just poking at them. Just chipping away. Hello? What are you thinking about? I wonder if they're like over there going like, I wish I had my planes. That would be pretty good. I doubt it though. Would your creature like to fight mine? Nope. They just want a second blue source. It's a pretty good creature to play, though. With Death Touch and Reach. Jeez. Okay. I guess this is the part where we be aggressive. And then we'll still make our board wider. Especially since, like, they don't have trample or a lot of high power. Making a wide board is, like, a really good way to just kind of eventually run them over. Scavenging Ooze is pretty good. It's essentially a 3/3 right now. I don't know if they'll do that at instant speed or not. Okay, they decided to do it now. Sure. Why not? Ooh. So, I wonder if I'll just poke him with a 1/1 and then play the Buccaneer. Oh right, the Juggernaut has to attack. Alright, I guess we'll do I guess we'll do that. We got something off the board. They get to surveil. Whatever. I guess they liked it. And then we draw a card. And then we make a fairy. And then next turn we could poke him with a fairy and then use the self-reflection to copy our biggest guy and make another creature. If he lives. He's kind of a problem on this board. If he doesn't live, we could copy the Icewind Elemental and do the same thing. Or we could copy the Mischievous Mystic. And then whenever we draw discard with the Strix Lookout, we could make 2 fairies instead of 1. And this is the part where, like, it feels kind of sad to not have some sort of, like, overrun effect. Like, we can't just buff the team and then attack them for what feels to them like lethal out of nowhere. But we're doing okay. I think we're on the up and up. It's just a gradual incline. It's a slow up and up. Alright, here we go with the plan. Get 'em. The opponent's like, what mind game is this? Do I block? Are you gonna kill my thing? The answer's no. We've been found out. We've been had. And so here, self-reflection feels pretty okay. Like, now it feels like it's doing something good. It keeps scaring me with all these, like, flash speeds. I keep thinking it's a counterspell when the card pops up over mine. Well, that's rough. Foiled. Foiled again. We still have a wide board. They may have slowed us down a turn, but next turn we'll play less mana to do something similar. Or maybe we'll play the spider. I don't know. At this point, I'm also wondering, like, if it would be wise to start holding up Aetherize as they start, like, trying to get through for damage. So they have 3 green mana, which means that thing could essentially be a 7/7, and it's not worth trying to force a trade right now. Alright, they made their flyer bigger. Not my favorite thing to see. At this point, I'm thinking having some Death Touch as a blocker on my side might be a good idea. Discard the land, because we have a pretty good amount of those. Make another chump blocker, since they're coming in every turn now. Alright. Just the ooze. And I don't feel like using my Death Touch Spider as a blocker here. So we're just gonna chump block, because we have plenty of time to do so. That's a problem. So I think holding up Aetherize would be a good idea. Which means we have like 3 mana to fumble around with. Alright. See if they want to trade somebody for my somebody. Now they're feeling all confident that they got a coma down. Like an 8/12 is massive. Okay, they're taking it. We have an extra mana. We can't really do much with it though, because we want to hold up 4 for Aetherize. Because if their coma connects, they get 4 different 3/3s on the board. And we take a lot of damage. Like, it's not great. I wish they would just all out swing. Like, just be confident and go like, haha, and then we can have them scoop up their whole board. That would feel okay. Okay, they played a land. They're tapping their mana carefully. What for, I'm not sure. If they have a counterspell, that could feel pretty bad. May have just been so that they can keep doing more activations of like the scavenging ooze and stuff. We'll see. Okay. Sure. To your hand, please. Excellent. And they don't have the mana to replay him this turn. So we bought us 2 turns instead of 1. Now, the ward on Coma is like a hefty price, but it's better than him not being turned into a 1/1. So I'm kind of okay with like saving Witness Protection for Coma next turn. So we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing and try to slap him in the jaw with our flyer. Because that was the whole plan for our deck to begin with. Alright, we got another treasure. That's cool. So now we're thinking. Do we want to play self-reflection? I guess yes. Alright. There we go. Now we make our board twice as big when we do this. Or I should say big twice as fast. I'm over here nervously thinking, like, there's no way they can get me with coma, right? And so now we're just gonna gum up the board as much as physically possible. And now we see what they do. I think coma is expensive enough to where they probably feel like if they play them, then they don't get to do, like, much else, except maybe activate Scavenging Ooze once. So it does put the clamps on them a little bit. And we got a land. There's a forest though, and the spider does need green mana to put counters on things, so pretty okay. Paid the hefty ward and solved the problem, potentially. We're finally gonna get their death touch blocker out of the way. Yep. We got a creature we can play. Look at that. With how wide the board is, I feel like a defender isn't really needed. Plus, we kind of need to keep pressure on them. So, another creature capable of attacking and doing damage, especially with the evasion of the air, it's kind of nice compared to that wall. Alright, here we go. What you doing? You have 8 mana and 3 cards. Let's see something. And we're carefully tapping mana again. They wanted to leave blue mana open this time. And since they can use the green mana to activate the Scavenging Ooze, that tells me they definitely have an instant speed boost spell. We're just gonna go straight into making the board wider. Nice. And they found a way to get Coma back. That's not good for me. Loot away a land. Counters on creatures. Nice. So we made him, that creature, just big enough to threaten a trade with their flyer. And at this point, because they're gonna play Coma again, I feel pressured that I'm on some kind of a clock here. So we're just gonna attack with the Air Force that we have built up and see if that puts enough pressure on them to kind of like win regardless of if Coma is on the board. Because next turn they're probably gonna play him. And then they're maybe gonna swing because I swung with so many of my little chump blockers. I'm not sure. At this point, they're set up to take 6. And then next turn, we can get them to take 7 from the flyers we have. Or the 1/1 flyers we have. 8, 9 with the Mystic. 10 if I put the Gold Vein pick on somebody. 11 if I actually swing with the Strix Lookout instead of tapping them. So I think if past me sees this, we have the game. Plus I can pay mana to put 1/1 counters on my flyers with the Treetop Snare Spinner. So at this point, I just don't even need to block if all they're gonna do is hit me with the with the 4/4. Okay. Alright. Not a bad land to draw. Spread the love with those counters. I'm double checking one more time just to be careful. Probably because I'm nervous that full swinging would throw the game. Here we go. Let's see if they have anything. They're gonna gain their 1 life from the Scavenging Ooze. So good thing we put counters on creatures. Nailed it. We are back with another game. So this is what I'm talking about with like, we have 2 dead cards in our whole deck and it would only feel bad if they were in our hand. And then they're in my hand and I have the Gold Vein pick, but I don't really have a attacker to stick it on. So the Thornwood Falls feels pretty good to draw here. I'm happy with that. And we got one of our singular little pieces of removal. I have a very strong suspicion they're gonna remove our spider because it's red-black and they did nothing in past. But I've been wrong before. Maybe it's not worthy. Maybe their stab or their lightning strike couldn't get it done. Alright. And we made a creature that can threaten a trade with theirs. I like this. I was wondering why I didn't just play the Death Touch Spider, but maybe I'm more interested in getting Lifelink potentially online. because lifelink can be a really good way to just outlive the wrath of a red deck. Alright. Hit them for 5, make a treasure. And then we just leave back our Death Touch blocker. See what happens. They want something to happen, that's for sure. We're gonna block the flyer, because flyers are harder to block, and I do have a wall. And it's always a little sad when their thing comes back, but the Spinner of Souls is doing a really good job of keeping our hand full. Alright, we have options. Let's see what they do. See if we get another treasure or not. We do not. But we got one of their attackers off the board. Okay. So we have 6 mana to work with. And we go for matching their attackers with creatures that can block. I like this. We're gonna keep asking them to have answers. Got rid of our flying blocker. The Spinner of Souls is carrying us through this game. They're doing great. I like that card. He is a good card. Alright. So we'll negate their 4/4. So that I can still swing. And unless they use another card from their hand, they won't be able to trade with our big spider. And now we're gonna get the bird online. It can't threaten a trade yet, but when we draw a card next turn, it can. Alright, we'll do a little surveil action with our wall. This is the first time in this draft we've played this wall, I think. And I opt to not go for another Goldbane pick. Like, I'm okay. And at this point I'm thinking, what the heck. Might as well just race. Like, we can put more things in the air to annoy them with. And we have a wall that's doing a very good job. Alright. Oh, nice, wide, full board. And that's a good card. Still attacking with their 3/3. I guess they don't mind that their creature died. Alright. And we're back with no white mana. So we have one card in our hand that we're not gonna play on turn 1. But we can still play our 2-cost creature and our 3-cost creature, and if we draw land, our 4. So it's kind of like a nice curve. Sort of. So now we see what they do. Blue and black. They might have a lot of flyers. Or just that. just that. That was like the last thing we needed to draw. You know what would be perfect right now? A plains. It is what it is. No blocks, because if we block and we trade, they get a flyer, and then they can block my 2/1, and that's worse than being able to block the 1/1. That's right. If you want to get rid of it, you gotta use a card. That was an odd way to use a card. Oh, that's not a plains. I like how they gave their creature, like, pseudo-vigilance by bouncing it and replaying it. You know, interestingly enough, that's not the worst thing ever. Like, they gave us a land, and that's sort of helpful. Now if we play Garuk's Upbringing, for the first time this draft, it could draw us a card. That seems nice. I kind of like that. They're picking out cards. Playing some stuff. Alright, we're gonna attack. For 5 damage, that's a lot. And then we're gonna draw a card. How nice. How nice for us. There's our planes. Now we can start deploying the hawks. Alright. Their flyer could trade with my flyer, fortunately. I think it's interesting now they're worried about their little 1/1 dying. When, like, before they weren't worried about it. It's kind of funny how people do that sometimes. Well, if we're gonna trade, we're gonna trade. Have at thee. I forgot he has trample too. Flying and trample is kind of a lot. Alright, well, we're gonna play our cards. We're gonna do what we came here to do. Play flying creatures. That's right. None of them drew us a card off Garuk's Uprising. Because we play little creatures. Alright, cool. Good game. Hey, we have a plains in our opening hand. Look at that. So I think last game was a really good example of how if your opponent cracks off their removal too early, or if just a player does, doesn't have to be your opponent, it can really hurt them because, like, they turned my 2/1 flyer into a land because they were worried about getting hit for 2 every turn. And then when I played my big flyer, they had, like, nothing they could do for it, really. And that was kind of rough for them. So just something to think about, I guess. And something I should think about is the fact that I'm playing a green-red rule big monsters deck, and I decided not to leave open my creature counter spell. So that's a little rough. Okay, sure, yep. Get your mana. Mana. And then just leave up Essence Scatter. Play whatever you want to play, but leave up Essence Scatter. I think also it would have been cool if I played the Imperium Eagle before I attacked. But I guess I hadn't decided if I wanted to play that or the Sky Mage. And I believe I went with the Eagle because if it lives the next turn, we can copy it and then our board gets even bigger. But they're kind of poking around at my creatures, which makes me think they're getting rid of my stuff. Goodbye, little bird. Rough. That was probably the death note, was not trading right there. I would play a creature and leave open the Essence Scatter, and then you gotta start chump blocking, girl. And we're not doing that, of course. Because they're gonna play a creature, and then their elf is gonna be a 4/3 trampler, and then their goblin is gonna get +2/+0 and menace. And then we're gonna have to trade all our creatures and die anyway. Because it's trample. But that's okay. You know? Sometimes stuff happens. I do think that, like, this deck was... I mean, if we lose here, which it looks like we're going to, like, this will be our third loss. If our opponent didn't get, like, totally disconnected. But I do think that even though this deck, by any stretch of the imagination, was impressive, like, it was not impressive. We still managed to get more wins than losses, and a lot of the losses, like this one, even though, like, there's a really good chance we were gonna lose anyway, a lot of our losses were just silly, you know? And I think that that's okay. So there we go. Good game. So I think that even though, like, we had a kind of like a rough draft, because I think other people were picking our colors, so we didn't get some of the pieces to really have a deck hum, like some good ways to stifle the opponent or draw a lot of cards. We didn't get, like, more than one Imperium Eagle, although it's cool we got one at all, I guess. um it still performed okay, and we had all of, like, 2 rares in the deck. The Soul Spinner Spider and Time Stop, and we ended up taking out Time Stop halfway through. So I guess this is, like, a good example of how you can still have, like, a decent win-loss ratio even if you don't get any rares in your deck. Like, don't get me wrong, like, rares and certain rares help for sure, but, like, you don't actually need them to be able to have a good win-loss ratio. And I think that that makes draft like more encouraging and more worthwhile because it's still a gamble. Like we're all still little gambling degenerates playing this stuff, but it's not like roulette where you only win if you get lucky, you know. So with my 2 cents out of the way, I'd like to thank you one more time for keeping me company. And if you want to see an extra video this week, you can hop over to my Patreon, but like don't feel obligated to, give me money or something. And then I will see you again next Friday with a brand new video.